Hello everyone. How's everyone feeling today? Let me know in the chat. I'm happy so many people are interested in this week with us here at Spirit School, Mediumship Foundations Week. I have a lot of great information for you this week. Today we will be focusing on awareness. Hello, let us know where you are calling in from. I am sitting here in Spirit School HQ, which resides on the unceded, stolen, and sacred territories of the Squamish Nation. So feel free to use your land name if you know the traditional territories. That's an extra way to add, a deeper connection to the land that you have settled on. So if you know the traditional territories, please let us know. If not, please use just the name that you are aware of when it comes to your lands. I welcome you all here today. To give you a bit of a heads up, I am a long form content creator, as so many of you know, and so I have slides prepared for today to try to keep me on track. The first class is going to be the longest class. We will likely be here 60 to 90 minutes. Tomorrow's lesson is going to be shorter, but I've allowed for some space for some questions. So today we're going to go through a couple exercises. I'm going to share some philosophy, some theory, some techniques for you to take away in your development journey. I also wanted to say I have Andrea here. You'll see her name in the chat, Andrea McCallum, Team Spirit School. She is going to be here to answer some of your questions. I'm going to be hiding the chat while I am talking personally, just because I find it really distracting and I love people. So it's really hard for me to not stay engaged in the chat and try to stay on task in the class. If you have taken a class with me before, do you want to drop an emoji for me? Hello from Ohio. Hello. I know, so usually I move my screen aside so I don't see the chat. Andrea can answer any tech questions, any support questions. She's been in hundreds of my classes, so she likely knows my answer. We will have space tomorrow for more formal questions at the end of class as well, and another opportunity in class 5. So please don't worry. Welcome. We do have some new people here. I know a lot of people were really interested in experiencing some teaching. I'll get deeper into my teaching style as we move through the class here today. You did the initiation last fall? Amazing. Awesome. Perfect. So some of you who have taken the initiation know before that I used to, when I first created the initiation, I wanted to create something that would support someone through their first 3 years of mediumship development. So the old foundations course, which I retired last year, was pre-recorded material, and it was 30 videos. This is what happened when you get a detailed Virgo as a teacher. You end up with 30 videos. So I decided for this round to keep it interesting, to keep it fun, to do some foundations classes live for free, so that when we go into the initiation in October, we can just get down to it and we can go into some more advanced things. So that's why I wanted to do this as an experiment, and you all really wanted this. So anyone here not aware of who I am, please let me know as well. Hello from Catsi First Nations. We have our retreat, the Sacred Spirit Retreat is on Catsi Sacred Territory. So I love that. Yes, and this is a 5 series. We're just doing the whole week. I haven't done one of these weeks in a while. So let's just get started. If you have any questions at all, please type them in the chat. And I welcome you all here. Let's just get into it. Let's get started. Let me project my screen so we can stay on task today. Because if any of you have ever had a class with me before, you know that I can get a little bit, what do I say? Digressy. I digress. There should also be a heads up. I do swear sometimes. That does not excite everybody. I don't apologize for it. I just give you a bit of a disclaimer for it. It is just how I speak. It is part of my vocabulary, and I do not know how to filter myself. So I show up completely as me. Thank you for accepting me exactly as I come. If you want to place your hand on your heart at this moment to ground into the space with me, and just place your hand on your heart and take a deep breath. And as you take a deep breath, I want you to say to yourself, I accept myself exactly as I come. And just allow that acceptance to move through every single atom of your body. And maybe you want to focus on a name that's in the chat or a name that's on the participant list, and you want to take an extra breath and just say, thank you for being here with me today. I accept you as you come, exactly as you are as well. And I think it's really important to learn about acceptance on this path and to accept one another and offer ourselves the same acceptance that we offer other people as well. So let's get started. This is the Mediumship Foundations week. So I have created 5 classes for this week focused around awareness. Tomorrow we will go into the spirit world. Wednesday we'll go into the language of spirit. Thursday, we're going to go deep into communication because we are essentially storytellers for the departed, and that's very important, and it's an honor. So we're going to be talking about communication as well. And then we're going to end on the medium because one of my personal philosophies around spiritual development is so much of this development journey is going to be in the personal development space. So I want to focus on the medium as well. And so all these classes will be anywhere from 45 to 90 minutes. It depends on what kind of moves through me. I have some ideas that I want to talk about. For me, it's always about scaling it back to a point that it's like not too much. That's always my point. These replays will be available for an entire month for you, so you can rewatch them if you want. This first class will probably end up on YouTube and my podcast. It'll probably be my podcast episode this week, but the other ones probably will not. So you're welcome to come into Spirit School, catch them all at any time, and then they will be moved over as the foundation material for the initiation that starts next month as well. So just don't be surprised if I end the calls just letting you know a little bit about the initiation, but I wanted to provide a strong foundation for a couple topics when it comes to mediumship development for this week. So a little bit about me, your mentor. If you don't know me, how many of you came to me through my podcast, Spirit School? You know, started in 2018. There wasn't a whole lot of podcasts around back then on the topic of mediumship. I decided to start my podcast really centered around vulnerability and centered around authenticity. I personally I had some incredible teachers, but I didn't have too many people talk about the bad readings or the not enoughness or, you know, the shadier and more shadowy things that come up on the development path. So because I had a full-time career in First Nations healthcare at the time that I was very passionate about, and I really thought I would spend the rest of my career there, I was like, I'll do it. I don't care if it makes me look less connected than anyone else. I'll talk about these things. So my career has really been centered around being authentic and as vulnerable as possible. I am not perfect, and that's how I try to teach is through my imperfections. So that's where people say I'm vulnerable, because I'm not afraid to tell you kind of where I flop and fail. And yeah, it's a sticky and icky for me, maybe even a little bit more because it's such a wound for me, but I'm obsessed with growth and evolution. So I just like, I love a good tower moment. I'm like, okay, we're going to expand from this. And you know what, because I love to teach, and the truth is I wanted to be a teacher first thing coming out of high school, but I couldn't figure out the college paperwork and there was no resources for me. I knew I wanted to be a teacher. And at 34 years old, I started teaching. And it's all I want to do now. I just love, love, love teaching. So I love having experiences, good or bad. I love unpacking and integrating from those experiences. And I love finding a way to share about those experiences so that we can continue to expand and evolve as humanity. We don't have to repeat all the same mistakes because people are gatekeeping their experiences and no one progresses. So my hope is that by sharing the way that I do, that we continue to evolve and progress, which is my intention. I also love humans. So I do know that when I speak like this and I focus on this style of teaching, I get to connect with people in ways that I don't think a lot of my peers get to, because I really love like being in the trenches with my developing mediums, because I've been there. And the truth is, to where I am now and where I was back then, I love those days. They were very fun and exciting. And I remember my teacher saying at the first teacher I had, the first few years of your development are going to be the most exciting of your life. And she was 100% right. And I had that in my awareness. So I didn't waste a second of it. I appreciated every experience and every moment. And so if you love a good professional, or if you love a good, journey of the ups and downs and learning deeper, senses of resilience within yourself, you'll love the mediumship development path as much as I do. So some other things about me: I am Swampy Cree, which we're using the language of Muskego First Nations of York Factory, Manitoba, which is where my dad's line comes from. And on my mom's side, I am a 4th generation Vancouverite, born on Granville Street, first to leave on that side of the family as well. But our heritage goes back to throughout the UK. on that side of my family as well. I am in the 11th year of development. I awoke to my mediumship development journey after the birth of my first child. Now, we will talk about the medium's journey on day 5, I believe, and I'm always fascinated by people's origin stories, because it seems that a lot of people come to the awareness of mediumship after losing somebody important to them, after a near-death experience, after a life-altering accident of some kind, or a traumatic experience like childbirth. And that seems to be a bit of a calling card for a lot of people who are drawn to develop their mediumship. I will say I have been aware of mediumship since I was about 11 or 12 years old. I was at a funeral and I was of a family member, and I was gifted a book by James Van Praagh called Talking to Heaven. Not sure if any of you have seen that, but I was very young, preteen, when I got that first book. It really kind of opened me up. Not long after, Sylvia Browne was on TV and John Edwards was on TV, and I started purchasing mediumship readings for myself when I was 16, 17 years old. I've always had a fascination for mediumship. I never realized that that was probably a bit of a calling, but I ended up into the paranormal space, right? You know, there's a progression of spiritual maturity that I could do whole programs on just in itself, but for a lot of us, it really does start with like ghosts and paranormal, and like starting to unpack like, you know, death and dying and what happens. And so I was a paranormal investigator for years, and I love my work in doing that, but my job was actually following the medium to capture whatever it is that they were picking up and trying to validate it and research it after, either with the homeowners or historical centers that hold different records. So all this to say, mediumship seems to have always been in my peripheral, but I never really developed until I was 31 years old and I had my daughter, and I never believed I was a medium, not even once. And we'll unpack that and we'll talk about that as we move along here. So 11th year of development, I do believe I'll be developing for the rest of my life. I don't think that there's ever a master medium or that we ever know everything there is to know about the art of mediumship. I'm in my 8th year of doing it professionally. For those of you who know my story, I really took it as a personal goal to do 150 practice readings, so I knew what I was doing before I thought about even doing this professionally. I didn't realize that would take me 4 years because I didn't know you could develop online. I thought you had to do everything in person, and living in a small town, it's really hard to find people to sit for you. Whereas if you join the initiation, guaranteed you're going to do over 30 readings in 2 months. I would have killed for something like that developing. But for me, it took a long time, almost 4 years, to really start to feel like I knew the inner workings of mediumship to the point that I could put my name out there publicly. It wasn't too long into my professional career that people started asking me to teach mediumship. And let me tell you, my first home circle had like 4 people in it. Let me know if you were part of that home circle. I was so nervous to teach. I was so about like, what do I know? I wouldn't even guide a meditation. I would literally play my mentor's guided visualizations for my circle. I was so nervous. So even my teaching career over these years has been like an evolution in itself. So this is me today. These are my teachings where I stand at this point, and they will change 10 years from now, and they're very different than they would have been 10 years ago. So permission to evolve for me, for you, for every one of us over here. I am passionate about being a trauma-informed. You know, medium, it's something that I learned through working in First Nations healthcare. It's a term that I think even originated in First Nations healthcare. And all this essentially means is I have the awareness that my words have impact, and how I present information may retrigger or reignite somebody, because we're dealing with very vulnerable and sensitive topics. But more importantly, I have the skills and the training on how to repair that. And so I think, and I truly believe that every space holder should go through some sort of trauma-informed training. And it's just something that I really do focus on at Spirit School, through the declaration, through just different things that we do in the collective. But I love space holding. And again, I think it's rooted in my love for humanity. So not sure if anybody resonates with any of that. I do also am getting, it probably will come in a lot more next year, but I am trying to share a lot more of my Indigenous worldview when it comes to mediumship. And I think my resistance to that up until now is it really does seem to be different than what you may hear through spiritualism, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I teach through my experiences and storytelling. I teach through a vulnerable lens. I don't try to present information that is above my capacities. I don't try to impress anybody. I literally just tell you my experiences and how I've unpacked them, and I create sacred spaces for you to have your own experiences so that you can unpack them. Because the truth is, it's such an expansive thing, mediumship, that it works really different for all of us. If I ask 10 mediums how they got a specific piece of information, you get 10 wildly different answers. So it's not about finding the structure, it's about finding your structure. And so that really requires a lot of practice, and it requires like a lot of vulnerability on your part to put yourself out there to understand how mediumship works through you and how spirit communicates through you. And that is so much of the development journey. So that's why I teach about it from my lens. Maybe it will work for you like it works for me. Maybe it will work very differently, but permission to experiment. The biggest barriers to becoming a clear channel for the spirit world, for me personally, that I had to overcome and seem to be the biggest themes in my development journey, are performance anxiety, self-doubt, and self-compassion. I'm so hard on myself. Does anyone resonate with this? Does anyone feel like they have a little bit of doubt if they have the capacity for mediumship, or if they are worthy of being a voice for the voiceless, or, you know, performance anxiety, getting it wrong, saying something wrong, hearing a no, all those things, right? And then also like the self-compassion. I see all these hands going on, right? So you're not alone. This is my jam. This is why at Spirit School we have our saying, heal that shit. Because there's nothing else you can do but heal that shit. Nothing I'm going to say is going to fix it, but I will give you some inspiration on different things that you can try moving forward that will help you feel more confident that when you show up, something will happen. The thing about mediumship is it's very inconsistent, and there's no guarantee. It's very unlikely that a reading will repeat itself, right? So every time you go in, it has its own nerve-wracking moments because you don't know what's going to happen. But eventually you get to the point where you have this confidence, you know something's going to happen. And that's more than enough to get you in that seat, right? So I just wanted to share a couple of my own personal philosophies around mediumship. We will focus a bit on spiritual philosophy on Friday when we talk about mediumship, because it's a really, or the medium, because it's a really important part of being a space holder and a voice for the voiceless. So philosophy, though, is tied to like your beliefs. There's something that you kind of figure out as you have your experiences and you integrate from them. Your philosophies start to form and evolve, and they do evolve as you have more experiences. So my own personal philosophies are based off of my experiences and the experiences that I've lived vicariously through the thousands of people I have trained in mediumship in the past 8 years. So these are just some of my own personal philosophies when it comes to mediumship. One, it's all energy, and energy is completely unbiased. It is accessible to everyone. So energy is impersonal but deeply intimate. That is a quote by Caroline Myss that I absolutely love and I think is really applicable. What this essentially means is everything has energy and everyone has access to energy, and it doesn't favor anyone. So in that way, it is accessible to every single being and every single thing on planet Earth. We know everything has like an energy field around it. The only difference is with a medium is you develop your consciousness and you learn to understand the language of energy. Is for those that learn to be conductors of energy, can use energy more consciously and use it in their favor. So that's how come it can sometimes feel or appear that some people are more connected than others. I just think that some people have learned the principles and the laws of energy and can learn to be conductors of that energy and be more intentional with it. Therefore, it might seem like it's more powerful over there, but it's still accessible to absolutely everybody. And I truly, truly believe that. We are all worthy and have the capacity of mediumship. This was my biggest hiccup when I first started. Like, since I started getting readings when I was 16 years old, every medium I saw said, oh, I'm going to be getting readings from you one day. And I was like, there's absolutely no way you're going to get readings from me. And I remember at 31 getting that reading with my eventual teacher, and she said the same thing. And I was hella convinced everyone was just trying to get me into their class. I was like, yeah, every medium says that to like every person. I was convinced of it at that time. But my words that came out of my mouth as soon as she said that for the first time, which I think was the disruptor of that story, was there's no way angels are going to speak to me. For one thing, it was surprising that the word angels came through. That has nothing to do with this week, but that's how it kind of came through. And then the second thing was I really realized how much I felt like I wasn't worthy of that connection. And that is insane. We are all worthy of this divine connection. In fact, we are all divine, and that connection is within. Again, it's free and accessible to us. So we are all worthy of this divine connection. So the other thing I want to say, one of the questions I get a lot from people is, how do I know I'm supposed to do this? How do I know I am a medium? It is so rare, if you think about the almost 8 billion people we have on the planet now, that people would hear about mediumship. I feel if you are even aware of mediumship, that's a sign of your sign that you should explore it in some way or capacity, whether that's getting a reading, learning about your own divine connection, learning about guides, learning about your own loved ones in the other side, like what they're kind of navigating as they transition. I feel that is such an uncommon path that is technically a sign that you should get curious about it and look into it. You go to a party I went to, where was I? I was at a conference 2 weeks ago, an Indigenous Women in Entrepreneurship conference. I would say about 5% of the people I talked to have ever even heard about mediumship. I had one person say like, oh, shamanism. I'm like, sure. Had another person say like, oh, channeling. I'm like, sure. You know what I mean? Like it's not all that common. So that's kind of a sign too. I also personally believe that so much of your mediumship development is going to be in personal development. It's going to be about becoming a clear channel. What are the barriers for you believing the information that's coming through? What are the barriers for you to confidently verbalize what is coming through? A lot of that is rooted in like personal development. So spirit communication, when you learn about it, is actually quite simple. The most difficult parts about it are learning to trust the information that's coming through and trusting your voice in saying it. So a lot of the development is going to be a personal development journey. Sorry, there's so many people here. I get so nervous. Here we go. I also believe that the development journey is lifelong, right? There's no master mediums, and spiritual humility is required. If you resonate with that term, spiritual humility, go check out my Instagram. I shared my declarations. These are all chapters in my upcoming book, and spiritual humility is one of the first ones. But I do think that this work does take a lot of spiritual humility to grow and expand. I also believe the only prerequisite to mediumship is a life well lived. And I've been saying that for a decade now, and I'm a testament of that. I'm not religious. I don't come from any kind of like spiritual family. I don't have any seers in our line. It's just me and my life. And as I sit in, with more and more people, I can't believe how many things have happened to me in my life, whether it's the time I spent in race cars. I was a world ranked gamer for a while. I worked in First Nations healthcare. I worked in, advocacy and social justice and nonprofit, and worked on like a race car team, which was a really cool collaborative teaching experience for me. And, I also have a family that like struggles with like addictions, and, I've lost people in traumatic ways. And what I realize is that when I sit with people, there's this like empathy that can come through, because I too have experienced a lot of what comes through. So I feel like the more we experience in life, the more references that we have with the spirit world to work through. They don't solely work through our references, but it's a really quick way for them to get information through to us. So the more colorful a life, the more color you can bring through in a spiritual reading. And I do believe this. And if you look at some of like, the generation before us, teachers, you'll see a lot of that. Look at Louise Hay's work, right? Created Hay House when she was 60. Look at what happened to her before. Colette Baron Reed, like recovering addict. You look at, what's his name? Wayne Dyer, recovering alcoholic. And like these people were so driven by a spiritual passion because of what they experienced in their humanity. And I think that there's like clairempathy, which is an ability of clairsentience that spirit works through. And we really can be more empathetic when we also have experienced something that someone else has experienced, right? Or else it's compassion versus like empathy. So if you have problems, like this was me, it's like the colorful life that I lived. I didn't feel like I was worthy of spirit to work through, but spirit's like, no, we can use you more. So I tend to attract people to sit with me that I've had very common experiences with. So I also believe when we look at all the different healing modalities out there, mediumship is one that everyone can benefit from. Everyone loses someone. That is one of the few things that connects us all, and that nobody can get away from. It's like we all experience grief, we all experience that love, we'll all experience loss, and we'll all go home and return to the other side one day. That is something that we all connect with. And therefore, everyone on the planet could benefit from mediumship if they were open to it. Keep in mind they won't be, and that's perfectly fine as well. But everyone has a need for mediumship, essentially. And then the final one is practice makes progress. I love a lecture. That's why I love Caroline Myss. That's why I wanted to be a university professor. Like, I love lectures, and I love theory, and I love philosophy. Those are my favorite topics when it comes to mediumship development journey. But none of it makes any sense until you're in the arena and you start actually applying what you have learned. So it is through practicing mediumship, which is very vulnerable, that progress happens. And that's really the only way to make sense of all the different things that you read and hear and know. So those are my philosophies that I wanted to bring up as part of this class. So the first class I wanted to just focus on, sorry, I just had like a brain fart here, awareness. Awareness is everything in mediumship development. When I looked at my journey with awareness, I could see how my journey with awareness more consciously really started when I was doing my Meet Your Guide meditations, right? So because I was skeptical that I was a medium, I've never been skeptical in the spirit world, right? Paranormal investigator at 19 years old, never doubted spirit or that there was a creator. It was just a belief I love to have, and it helped me live a really fearless and expansive life. So we keep her, right? But I didn't believe that I could connect with spirit. And so that's where that skepticism really was. And I remember the early days of development, I would sit on my bed. That's where I would do all my developing. And I would sit and try to connect with my spirit guide. And that was one of the first exercises our teacher had for us. But the signs that they were asking us to go for was like, is it a symbol? Is it like an apple, right? Is it like a sound or a lyric or a phrase or a saying? And I remember early on asking my spirit guide, I'm like, I need something physical. I don't think I'll believe anything that comes up in the world behind my eyes. And I didn't understand claircognizance and clairaudience at that time, which we'll talk about on day 3. And so I remember saying to my guide that I refer to as Skylar, I need this to be physical. And it took me a while of sitting quite regularly to start being aware of my energy and start being aware of this physical sign that Skylar would give me when he was around. And that became a really solid sign for me. And I knew I had it dialed when I would be like driving in my car, doing the dishes, or doing something completely outside of the scope of spirituality. And I would get that sign. And I have to say at those times, it was absolutely the most comforting. As I progressed along my journey with awareness and I started to really tune into it and heighten it, I could see how it helped me advance my mediumship when I would have multiple spirit communicators. So my awareness got to a point where I knew that there were like 3 spirits there, and I knew how to move my awareness or how to conduct the energy so that I could not only separate them, but focus on one at a time or energetically dance between them, depending on what the spirit world wanted for that day. And so that progression from getting that first sign from my guide to really truly understanding multiple spirit communicators and knowing exactly how to use my awareness to make that a clean experience for me and my sitter probably took about 9 years, maybe 8-9 years to really get there confidently. Right? And I'll take you through this as we move through the slides. Promise you. We're going to make this practical and tangible. I'm just giving you a bit of like the overview and the philosophy right now. So when we go to look at, awareness from the context of mediumship development, that's all I'm focusing on, because I could, attempt to wow you of all the books I've read on awareness and like the big language and higher philosophies around it. But I definitely want this to be a really practical and tangible week for you that you can have things to take away. So I'm going to simplify it and streamline it into a point that we could leave today with 3 different areas of awareness that you can leave and practice with. So awareness is a definition in the context of mediumship is awareness refers to the cultivation of heightened sensitivity to both physical and spiritual worlds. It is about developing a conscious perception of subtle energies, messages, and spirit presence that exist beyond the normal 5 senses. Now, here's one of the things about increasing your sensitivities and starting to develop your awareness is just for you to be mindful of. And I'm curious if other light workers want to validate this, because I know not everyone's a baby here. I know others have been through this. But when you become more sensitive, you become more sensitive, right? So there's a great part to that. And you become more sensitive to the spirit world, but you also become more sensitive in life. Like, I used to be the most extroverted person. I needed to be around people all the time to like feel alive. And then as I became a healer, a light worker, I sat with myself more. I became more in tune to the world around me. I became more in tune to the spirit world. I actually didn't have the capacity for that as much as I did before. And that's okay. It just is what it is. It's just one of the causes and effects of doing this work. But my hope is through our lessons today, and as I teach you about energetic sovereignty, you will know that that's not a martyr sacrifice that you have to make, that you can mitigate and manage all of this consciously, and that you are more powerful than you probably even know. And now I'm at the point where I'm so extroverted, guys. I love it. I love people. So the 3 areas of awareness I wanted to focus on for the rest of this class, I'm doing so good on time, but we're definitely going to go about 15 over, is self-awareness, the awareness of others, and spiritual awareness, the awareness of spirit. So we're going to focus on those 3 areas, and then we're going to put it all together for you at the end. And then we're going to leave you with 10 different ways that you can develop your awareness from here on out. And there's more than that, but 10 ideas for you to develop your awareness in your everyday life once this class is over. So that's going to take us through the rest of class. Now, I'm not going to show this, but did anyone ever see, and I can add this into the, I wonder actually, has anyone ever seen the awareness test with like the basketball and like the gorillas? I'm just curious if anyone's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Because this, to me, when I was thinking about different analogies like around awareness, that one just kept coming into my mind. Okay, you don't have any idea. Okay, let me just show you quickly, because I think it's worth sharing before we go into our exercises. Okay, so it's only 1 minute and 30 seconds, and just follow the instructions on the video.
This is an awareness test. How many passes does the team in white make?
Go!
The answer is 13. But did you see the moonwalking bear?
Go!
Okay, before it starts playing some crazy ads or something like that. Okay, so I'm curious what you think. When I was thinking about this example, I was thinking about from the spiritual context. Yeah, I did see, you're like, what the fuck is that? Right? There's a little bit of a difference between focus and awareness. And, we're all focusing on the team in white, right? But if we have that focus and then also opened it up to awareness, we probably would have been aware of like a lot more. You got 13, but you missed the bear, right? So this is like 16-year-old video. I remember seeing it a long time ago. But as I was thinking about awareness, I couldn't stop thinking about that, because what happens is while we're building our confidence in mediumship, we may become aware of a presence. We may become aware of like one specific thing, but we're so focused on that it stops us from being open and aware. And that's part of the development. We move from focus to like awareness, or become more open. We can take in more data. And that's what that expansion is, right? At first we get like one thing. And then as we become more skilled, as we become more seasoned, we can become aware of more things. So that really is kind of like an analogy I wanted to take about the development of this. You didn't notice it was a bear, but you saw a black thing in the middle of stop counting. I'll be honest with you, I've seen this video 100 times, and like I didn't see the bear. What does it say about me? I don't know. But I was like, oh yeah. I'm like, I can't believe I didn't see, even though I knew I was like kind of like looking for it. So, you know, keep that in mind. Like sometimes you'll be in an early sitting and you're like, I'm aware of this, but I don't know where to go with this or where to look. That's because your spotlight is so little, right? And then it expands as you start to expand. So you have to go through some of those more uncomfortable seasons of your development that it's going to be a bit of a mystery until it isn't, right? So what's actually happening as we're developing is our awareness is expanding. And I did not even see it looking at it a second time. Now, this is a 16-year-old video, so this is before 4K, okay? It is not a 4K video. Okay, it's a bit grainy, it's a bit pixelated. So let's start with self-awareness. Just a couple notes I wanted to highlight on it. Again, I have been teaching for a long time. I have never taught the same class twice. I could teach a class on mediumship development every day of the year and still have things to talk about at the end. There's that much to like know about it. So it's really hard for me to like narrow down like what points do I want to say on this today. So hopefully you're able to get some things out of this. But when we talk about self-awareness and mediumship, it's really important as a foundation that you get to know your own energy first. Right? Until we know our own energy intimately, it's going to be really hard to discern what is not ours. So now I know my energy so intimately, and I'll take you through this on the last slide, I'm able to move my awareness to become aware of a foreign energy. And it's so apparent to me now because I know what my energy feels like, right? So that self-awareness is always going to be that first step. Getting to know your own energy on an intimate level is going to be a first step when it comes to mediumship development. So this is where we start to come into energetic sovereignty. We start to ask these questions. If you're somebody who's identified as a highly sensitive person, if you will, there may be times where you have been overwhelmed in public spaces and you haven't realized that your energy's out all the time. And I remember as a clairsentient medium, one of the most powerful things I ever asked myself was, is this mine? Because I would find myself all of a sudden with anxiety and I'd be like, I have nothing to be anxious of right now. And I would have to see like, okay, I'm opening up my energy's open, I'm picking up other people's anxiety. So I would ask myself, is this mine? And it was almost like a prayer that I would say like, is this mine? And by way of saying that, it's like I'm choosing to carry what is only mine and everything else kind of like melts away. That was like one of the first energetic sovereignty tools I ever learned. And it still continues to be one of the most profound for me. And that really is a tool of self-awareness. So like understanding like what is your energy? Where does it begin? Where does it end? And where is other people's energy, right? The other thing around self-awareness, and this took me a long time to really, I'm a slow study, right? I've always said that my career has been a slow and steady career. There's been nothing lightning speed about my career. And I appreciate that because I've gotten a lot of time to like unpack a lot of this. But when I would do things like sitting in the power, or I would be in a session that there was like a deep need for, I started to notice that there was like tingles on the back of my head. Or I would just about to start doing a reading and I would feel like getting sick. I would feel like anxious. I would start getting nauseous. The other thing that would happen to me too is that my throat would tighten and my heart would quicken and I would start to sweaten. So I started to become a lot more in tune with my body, a lot more in tune with my energy field. And by way of doing that, I started to notice and recognize signs that spirit was present because it wasn't me. I knew that because I knew my energy so well. Right? So we're going to practice doing a little bit of a self-awareness assessment so that we know what our baseline is. And this is a practice that I started introducing in all my sittings, is I would never go into a session or sitting without understanding what my energy is that day, because it's going to be moving all the time, right? I have different experiences every day. Could be having an argument with my husband. My kids could have put me through the ringer earlier that day. I'm different every single day. So before I even think about serving spirit or my sitter, I will get a tune in on what my energy is that day. And that then becomes a lot easier to pick up what their energy is and what spirit's energy is. So I do that before all of my sessions. The other thing too, I've noticed, and this has been something more clairvoyant, I also noticed that I don't know how better to describe this, but I see my awareness almost as like a lighthouse. It's like I'm the lighthouse, literally. And then it's like I have like the spotlight, and the spotlight just moves, and I can point that spotlight somewhere, and I can expand it, and I can collapse it, and I'm in complete charge of like this lighthouse. And that light out of the lighthouse is actually like my awareness. And so sometimes when I don't have necessarily the capacity for the discernment with multiple spirits, it's like, I can't do all the work today, I'm tired. Can you just stand in my spotlight? Because one of you stand in my spotlight at once, and I'll actually put a spotlight behind me, and I will work with one spirit at a time. And I noticed that that's actually, when I do group readings and demonstrations, that's more or less how it works for me. It's like they line up and they come in one at a time, where sometimes I'll be sitting with someone and 4 communicators want to come through. And again, I just don't have that capacity to like do all that kind of like clumsy work at the beginning. I will use my spotlight just to keep it clean. But I do prefer to work in my sentience. I love it. I find that if I work in my sentience, I know it's a lot of people's like least favorite Claire, but I get to feel like I touched heaven. I get to feel the love spirit brings through. Like I love working in my sentience. So I do try to work in that as much as I can, just out of pure preference. So let's get you to close your eyes for a moment. We're going to just spend a couple minutes on each of these, but you can expand them out in your own personal practice for as long as you want. But if you simply just close your eyes, even stomping your feet on the ground to bring your awareness to your feet and bring your awareness to earth and whatever material is underneath your soles and your toes. I invite you to activate a smile on your face and think of something you're incredibly grateful for in this moment. And now I invite you to take 4 high-quality deep breaths at your own pace. These breaths are centering and clearing. So when I say centering, we're calling back all our energy, all our life force energy back into the heart space, back into the lungs. And as we exhale, we're releasing any tension or ruminations, any expectations. At your own pace, breathing in your own power, your own energetic field. And with your out breath, you're sinking deeper into your seat, dropping your shoulders, resting your tongue, and becoming fully present in your seat. I invite you to do a body scan, starting with the top of your head. Just focusing on being present in your body, being aware of the head. As we move down the body, you're allowing any ruminations or thoughts to move down in this assessment. As you start to take stock and notice of your shoulders and throat and neck area. And I'm not going to talk too much through this body scan so that you can be in full awareness of your own energetic and physical experience. Just scan down your body, just becoming aware of how you feel today physically and energetically. Don't make stories. Just simply practice being aware and present. And I invite you at this time to start becoming aware of the heart space, the seat of the soul. For my clairvoyance out there, you may want to visualize a light. For my sentience out there, just become aware of the swelling of the heart space. As you're becoming in tune with your heart chakra energy center, become aware of the love dwells within. Allow this love to expand in all directions. Making notice of any physical shifts you feel as you expand this love. And if there was anywhere in your body scan that needed a little bit more light and love, use this powerful force of energy to give some love and light to those spaces. Maybe it was your knees or your back. As you sat in presence, you felt discomfort. Just send some light and love there. Well, we've built it here together. We're slowly going to come back at the count of 3, but we're going to leave our energy where it's at because we're going to do a couple more things with this love and with this light. But at your own pace, take 3 high-quality deep breaths, starting to shift in your seat, starting to awaken yourself back to the here and now. Before you open your eyes, taking in your surroundings, not looking at the screen, but becoming present in your physical space. Take in the colors and the objects. So again, just for sake of time, I'm keeping this exercise really short, but I would typically usually do this for probably about 15 minutes. I personally love to do this assessment on where I'm at, even sometimes for the chakras. Sometimes some shine a little bit brighter. Sometimes areas are a little bit more dim, or I can't even feel them, and that's where I know needs a little bit more love. I just get a real clear picture on how I'm feeling that day, how my body feels that day, what's going on in my mind that day. I think it's really good to take a temp check of that before you head into doing your sessions. And I promise doing this type of personal practice will help it be easier to discern what is yours, what is your sitters, and what is spirit's, okay? So we're going to move on to awareness of others, right? So we have now a technique, we have now a personal practice that we can use to get a sense of who we are day to day. Now it comes to how do we sense other people's energy, right? So once we go into the realm of what's mine, what's theirs, we are officially in energetic sovereignty territory. I know that like things that I have been taught in the past have been really kind of scary and unnerving. It's like almost feels like if you do this, it's going to be really draining. And that's one of the things that I experience a lot in the wild. Is I'll tell people like, oh, I'm a medium. Oh, what's that? And I'll tell them, they're like, oh, that must be so draining. I'm like, not really. It's not, because I know very clearly what drains me and what doesn't, right? I knew even in my own personal practice that the readings never drained me. Connecting with spirit never drained me. My toxic ass drained me. Okay, it was like the doubt before, it was the over prepping, it was the self-doubting. It's like I exhausted myself before I even got in there. And so it was never the readings that depleted me. It was never like a huge sacrifice energetically. I depleted me. And so my responsibility as a light worker was, how do I create a lifestyle for myself, or a way of being in my relationship with mediumship that it's soul giving, not soul sucking, right? And so this is where we start to come into some of this energetic sovereignty. Is this thought worth the energy that it takes to have? You have to get clear on that. You have to ask yourself these types of things, right? So I'm very passionate about energetic sovereignty. I do not think that we are victims to the world of energy. That's all I'm trying to say with that. Though I'm sure that we will have experiences outside of our control that help us progress and develop along as well. Maybe we're missing a lesson. Maybe we're just not getting something. Spirit has to give something to us so that we learn what we need to learn to get to where we're about to head. So those things may come up for us. But I don't ever think that we're being punished or like victimized by the world of energy, personally, myself. So energetic sovereignty is the discipline of understanding where your energy begins and ends, and the autonomy you have over your energetic experience. I'm just curious, just checking in with you guys. how do you think about the term energetic sovereignty? Like, is that something that really resonates with you? Does it make you feel empowered? Is it something that makes you feel like you'll leave here today saying like, yeah, like maybe I'm a little bit more sovereign than I thought, right? Like maybe I'm not just at the whim of life, you know? Maybe there's like a little bit more. Thank you, Annika. I appreciate that. Perfect. Okay. So when we look at the awareness of others, it's not just energetic. And, you know, I am a teacher that will never bypass the humanity. Spirit School, we will always honor spirit while honoring our humanity. So some of the advice I'm going to give you is about also going to be helping you work human to human, not just us to spirit. A lot of people just want to like skip the 3D shit and like go straight to like, you know, 590. I'm like, no, we got to be here first because we're working with other humans, right? So it's important to kind of have some of these conversations, right? So one of the things that we have to be careful of if we're not boundaried or we don't understand our energy is the fine line between empathy, like caring about someone, really feeling what other people are feeling, versus over-identification, taking on their energy, taking on their experience, because trust me, we can do that too. We really can. And that is unconscious, but it is will-based, right? It's almost like we will that experience, but it could be unconscious that we do that. And there is, and that's actually something that took me a really long time to learn. It was actually, I think it was the girl from Violet Quartz, if you're in town, Erica Otto. There was something she said in a healing session that really like opened something up for me. I was like, yeah, I don't actually have to be enmeshed with my client. I can actually have like a little bit of that healthy separation. And so I really started practicing with that. And some of my students who have been around a long time know I suffered a lot with people pleasing. I mean, please draw me an emoji if you also too have suffered with people pleasing. I think that's so common for people who are on the helping path, right? Like all people who want to help other people will probably have a little bit of that. But one thing that I noticed that was draining for me in my readings, and I would notice because of my body, I would be like leaning in because I'm sentient, but all my energy was to my sitter because I wanted them to be happy and I wanted them to be satisfied by the time they left my space. It would be overwhelming for me. And it was one of the things that would drain and deplete me, right? And so I actually had to learn to like sit back and not over empathize or over identify with their case and like what they needed out of the session. I had to find my balance with that just so I could do more readings and help more people and not get so drained and depleted after. Again, nothing to do with the spirit world, you might find. Everything to do with my humanity, right? Everything to do with my humanity. So I had to kind of do something counterintuitive. It may not be something that I would tell you to do today, but in my extreme case, all I cared about was the sitter's experience. I actually had to restore balance within my own life around that by dedicating a whole year of my practice to spirit and really not putting all my weight into the success of a session based just on the sitter. Yes, we want them to be pleased. Yes, we want their need to be met. But the truth is we know from having our own readings that so much of the wisdom that comes through a session is unpacked after the session, right? So it's really a waste of energy trying to like get everything there and now. And I hope that this gives some people a permission slip. The truth is I love Maya Angelou's quote around this. You will never know your legacy. It is not your right. You'll know when you go, but you'll never know the impact of the ripple effect of the lives that you touch, right? And that's up to the creator and them. And I don't think that a lot of us do this to make ourselves feel better. And it's just something to be mindful of. So being mindful of that, you'll also become aware of your personal and professional boundaries based off this experience. When we understand energetic sovereignty, when we understand what depletes us and what fills us, what sustains us and what makes us want to pack it in, we start to then create some boundaries. And let me just tell you, these boundaries are always going to be a moving target. You will have new boundaries every season of every year because you're a different person all the time. The demand will change, everything will change. So it's really important to keep stock and inventory for yourself on, you know, what boundaries you need to put in place because of your new heightened sense of awareness as well, right? The other thing I want to talk about, which is more from a trauma-informed lens, is, you know, being aware of the words that you pick and how you express information. This is a ethical question that we talk about a lot in the collective in our philosophy circles. You know, just questions like, is it more ethical to just say it how it comes through, or is it more ethical to be aware of the impact of the words that come out of your mouth on the person in front of you, right? So it's like, And there's no right or wrong answer. It's a personal choice, right? This is an unregulated industry. But what I will say is why I think so many people study from me, and I hear it time and time and time again, people love the words that I choose. They love the way that I express things. But that's very conscious of me. Yeah, it's a natural language for me and it's a way of being, but I can see and sense the impact of the words that I have on other people. And that's not always in the positive. There are times when I may be brought through something without thinking how it could re-trigger somebody, and you kind of have that oh shit moment, right? Where you're like, oh no. And if you don't have the awareness or the tools on how to repair that in the flesh, it can get really sticky after that, without a doubt. I don't know if you'll even be able to bring your energy back up, or the trust will be there with the sitter enough to be open enough to be able to continue in the session. It will be like going through molasses the whole time, right? So just being mindful as you're moving through your journey that, you know, how you express certain things, just being mindful of the impacts that they have. I always like using suicide as an example. I found really early on, there was one situation I had where a community asked me to come in where they had lost 18 young men that year. This was pretty early on in my journey. And I got to tell you, doing 18 sessions for moms who have lost sons was like, whew, that was really, really, really tough for me. And I tell you, you really learn to choose your words carefully when you're in those vulnerable settings and with those people in very vulnerable spaces. And so I started recognizing that people, it was softer for them and they stayed more open with me when I would use the terminology of like, I feel like this person's taking responsibility for their passing, right? Versus like, I'm making this up. This has nothing to do with the people because it's all very private. Actually, I can't say it because you don't know. Again, we have 100 people here. I don't know what you guys have lived, so I have to be careful. But saying a specific way somebody would have passed. There are people out there who's like, just say how it is. And there's people out there saying, be careful because that person has to go live life after they leave your chair, right? So this is something to just be really mindful of and be aware of, because there is energy and vibration to the words that we pick. And those vibrations will either help our session or not help our session. So it's being really careful about that. We're going to do a whole class on communication. This will come up again, where there's going to be certain phrases that will plummet your energy and disempower you versus certain phrases that will elevate you and amplify the energy that's already there. So we'll talk about that all another day. So let's do a bit of an exercise now on energy. So close our eyes. We're going to center ourselves to where we just were, heart expanded. And I'm going to give you at your own pace 6 breaths to find your center once more. Feeling present in your seat, being less aware of me and my energy and more aware of your energy. This will likely come a lot quicker and easier than our first exercise. And then just pay attention to that swelling in the heart, the love, the seat of the soul, where your spirit resides in your human form. Connect with this love that is an endless well of energetic resilience. And allow this to restore you for a moment. While you're tuning into it. It's so hard to find things that restore us. And now very slowly, with your intention, move your awareness to me, to my voice, to my body, to my presence. This happens through a combination of thought and will. Feel the shift, any shifts, as you focus on my energy and move yourself out of yours. You can feel my power, my love, my radiance. Now bring your energy back to yours and your awareness back to your own center, your heart space, the seat of the soul. Become aware of your heart, of the swelling of this loving energy that is healing in its own right. And then once more, move your energy and awareness back to me. And just become aware of any subtle shifts as you move your awareness to me. And just become consciously aware if there's an area of my energy body that you're more drawn to, that you feel more power from. And then slowly, and with your intention and will, bring your energy back to your center. And center yourself once more. And this time I want you to visualize you being in full center by visualizing a pillar of light from your feet that pushes through the crown, connecting you fully to heaven and earth. You can know of this light, you could see this light. Just trust that it is there and you are that pillar of light. And take 3 high quality deep breaths, and once more start to awaken your body and come back into your room, not looking at the screen, but just looking, taking in an object, becoming centered in your space once more. So it can become hard to start to describe any shifts that you feel. Some of you will probably be like, nothing happened. That's okay. You'll get it. Trust me. Keep practicing this. You'll start to feel the difference. Here's how it happens for me. When I'm centered, I can tell because my energy isn't everywhere. When I move my energy, say I'm working psychically, because when I work psychically, it's a two-way link. I'm just focused on the energy of my sitter. I can feel a pull. It feels like a pull. It's like a tether being pulled from me, right? I can feel it. And that's when I know in a session that the information is in fact coming from my sitter, because I can energetically feel that pull. So just be really, practice this. It's big. I have so many exercises for you guys after. You saw a purple tornado of power. Cool. Cool. I'm glad you can see that. Same way, if I tell you right now, this is one of my favorite things to do. If I told you for the next slide to stop listening to me with your ears and start listening to me with your heart. And now, can you feel the shift in energy? Can you feel the shift in awareness? Even just simply saying that. And we'll go more into that when it comes to the communication class. But just feel the difference in energy when you choose to do that. Okay. So yes, please keep sharing your experiences with one another so that you feel that common humanity amongst each other. Everyone's going to have a bit of a different experience, and that's just it. People will be like, what about that? I'm like, it happens for me differently than it will happen for you. Some people will be visual, some people will be very sentient. Some of you might got ringing in the ears. Some of you may have lost hearing in one ear. Our bodies will respond to energy very differently. So right now in the beginning phases, it's just about noticing the shift in energy. That's it. It's just noticing the shift. And I promise you the details come and you will know when you know. But for now, just sit in the wonder of holy awe and just let it be wonder. You don't have to know everything, okay? And just notice the shifts in energy. Okay, so the last part I wanted to talk about around this, and we have 2 more slides after this, so I know we're over on time. Get used to that with me, please. My class ending times are very subjective. But then the third part is going to be about spiritual awareness. So we have that self-awareness, we have that awareness of others, which we could term as our sitters. Now it's about spirit and spiritual awareness, right? So the ability to tune into the subtle energies without the aid of the 5 senses, what we can tangibly see and touch and smell, right? It's our extra senses, which we'll talk about in depth on day 3. So this is something that can be like a little bit harder to describe. I talked about how I first started doing that spiritual awareness through getting a sign from my guides. I loved that experience. I highly recommend that you do that. I will be honest with you, not every medium subscribes to the whole spirit guide thing either. So this again is a very personal spiritual belief, and it's a very personal spiritual activation. It's not a one size fits all. Nothing spiritual is one size fits all or replicatable. So if you feel called to like work with a guide and you want to do that, it's a great way to start to build that spiritual awareness. You know, my first ever sitting, I believe, came through so claircognizantly that, you know, I think I said less than 20 words my first sitting. I was like, I know that there's a boy here. I know he's 18 and I know his name's Dustin. His name was Justin, in fact. And I only said like a couple things, and the whole next 3 years were spent, how did I get that? Right, that spiritual awareness. I will say one of my beliefs that may be a little bit more controversial is I do believe that we receive everything claircognizantly in that knowing, and our other clairs kind of filter it out. We'll go to more in depth than that on day 3. I don't want to get too distracted off that, but I'm just trying to bring through examples of why I feel energy behind me. Let me stick to my slides. Okay. So one of the things, I love to use my language, I love to use my words, words are so powerful. We'll cover that in a communication class. And what I notice is when I am working with spirit, it is actually just awareness. And so I will get my own awareness, and then I'll become aware of my sitter, and then I'll attune to their energy. I'll talk about that more in a second. And then I will actually say these words. And I said it before I became aware of it, but I started my sessions by saying, as I become aware of the spirit world. And I almost envision myself as like a peacock, and my like feathers start to open, and behind me, this awareness just starts to open. And I noticed that I would be able to become aware of the spirit world behind me, because sentiently I feel the spirit world behind me. That's just for me. That's how they knew I was ready to start. I would open up my awareness by saying, as I become aware of the spirit world. And whenever I did that, I could become sensing of energy behind me. And I knew it wasn't mine, and I knew it was my sitters at that time, right? Okay, so when you have this heightened sense of awareness and you start to understand what the spirit world feels like, keeping in mind, I personally think that the spirit world's senses are more consistent than mine and my sitters. I feel like the spirit world, when we're looking at mediumship as a 3-way link, is probably the most consistent and the most powerful and the most ready to go. I think us as humans, we show up differently every day. Our sitter is always going to be a wild card. I think that the spirit world is going to be the most consistent, even as inconsistent as each spirit senses. But as you can open up your awareness to the spirit world and work on spiritual awareness, you can start to discern genders. How many spirits are there? Is there a familial tie? For me, I can actually feel how emotions were left at time of their passing. Were there things unsaid? Is there an apology? Sometimes I'll feel like I'm in trouble from the spirit world. And I know that they'll bring through an apology around me. You start to become more aware of that as you work on fine-tuning your awareness of the spirit world. So spiritual maturity as well is also the ability, again, we go back to energetic sovereignty, the ability to open and close your awareness, right? So this is why I don't do drive-by readings, and people are like, oh, do you pick up things around me? I'm like, no, my awareness is closed for business right now, all right? I don't just walk around open all the time, and I don't just walk around trying to be aware of like what everyone's feeling and everything. So as we spiritually evolve, spiritual maturity is really, part of it is the ability to be able to like open and close your awareness like at will. So something to kind of work towards. And I will also say that the spiritual awareness, because unlike us and our sitter, does require a deeper level of faith and trust, not just in the fact that the spirit world was there and that they chose you as their communicator. And in fact, they did, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. But it will require a lot of extra faith and trust, because it's not using the senses that we're used to walking around in everyday life with. So this is probably the most fun to do, but I do want to share with you that I don't want you to focus just on this. Again, I've seen so much bypassing in the spiritual space where it's like, let's just get to 9D, let's just get to 5D, let's just get to the spirit world. That's great. I don't know if that's fully sustainable. It's important, don't get me wrong, but it's just as important to know your own energy and see yourself as a spirit as well, just as powerful, just as incredible as the spirit world, and as well as your sitter is also a spirit, and they're also incredible, and they have an aspect of them that is also on the other side. And so I really want you to, I don't know, see what's in your 12th house for one thing, but really get used to the fact that you are going to be on a long-standing path around building your trust and faith around all of this. So for me, I really lacked a lot of innate faith and trust in myself and the fact that I could do this, that it took me a lot longer to probably believe that the spirit world spoke through me than the average medium. So my hope is, in the way that I teach, that it goes a lot quicker for you. So whether you want to connect in with a guide or whether you want to invite in the presence of a departed loved one that you know their energy intimately, again, maybe just picking someone on the spirit side that's like, light and bright, because we're only going to be doing this for like a minute or two before we close up our class. I just wanted to be able to give you this experience so that you are able to do this on your own a little bit later. So we're going to close our eyes and center ourselves once again. And this technique will help you in any sitting as well. If a sitter throws you off or you don't know where to go next, this act of being able to center yourself is going to be paramount in everyday life, in the boardroom, in the workplace, in your parenting, in your sessions. This is a life skill. So we're going to center ourselves through the breath at your own pace, whatever process you need to do to start welling in that love of your spiritual center of the heart space, of the heart chakra. Call back your power, call back your energy so that you can do this with sovereignty and with agency. Take your breath, center yourself. You don't need to move your energy towards me. I simply want you to be aware of my energy off in the distance. So you're aware of your energy. You're aware of my energy. And now through the voice in your mind, I invite you to call forward a spirit to stand behind you to your right. You don't have to name everything, but I want you to pay attention to any subtleties in your body, in your heart quickening. Possibly you might perspire a little bit. You start to feel some tingles. You may see things, you may hear things, but through our heart and through the name of love, we call forward a guide or a loved one to stand behind us to our right. Say your hello. Give some love from your heart to them and receive their love back to yours. That energetic tether and connection. Become aware of any physical sensations on your body as you become aware of the spirit world. And we're going to ask, because it never hurts to ask, if the spirit world would be so willing to move their energy to our left side. Whatever spirit helper you have with you, see if you can sense that shift. They move their energy from the right to the left side. I always like to give a bit of gratitude. Thank you. Now I invite you to request of them, spirit helper, whoever is with you right now, to stand before you. If you feel so called and inspired, you may want to ask the spirit helper, may I please feel the love of the divine? And allow that love to fill your body, fill your presence, fill your auric field. And if you want to give gratitude or an offering to the spirit helper who stands before you, Could be a bow or a nod or a simple thank you, or perhaps it's an object you have that you want to give them in gratitude for their teaching today. Thank you for allowing me to feel your presence. I look forward to working with you in the future. Simply become aware of your heart space once more, focusing on nothing but the breath, filling your body. As you exhale, you move this energy down the legs, past the knees, down the feet, into Mother Earth. This is our last exercise of this class. So this is how I ground my energy after doing spirit work. I'm moving all the energy through the lungs, through the heart, down the seat, through the legs, through the bottom of the feet. Even lightly stomping my feet on the ground to connect me back here, rubbing my hands on my thighs. Taking one more high quality deep breath because it feels so good. Activating a smile on your face and coming back into the space, back into the class. Again, not looking at the screen first, taking in something in your surroundings to orientate you back into the here and now. Love you all too. Okay. Yes. Okay. Okay, thank you. Laura asked what my tangible sign was from Spirit. I should have said that. So this is so random, and it will make sense to everybody if you look at my whole back. It's like a pace on my back. It's kind of off to the right, and it almost feels like, not like an electric shock, but if you were to hold down that shock, it's like it like vibrates, and it's very physical for me. And it almost feels like a finger like touching my back really lightly. It's very physical, but the most specific part of it is it shows up on one very specific part of my back. And I thought that was so random at first, but it kept coming, it kept happening. So that was my physical sign from him, and I still get it to this day. So through this class, like this was a lot, right? So when we put this all together, when I share about like awareness from a mediumship lens, it essentially is understanding the awareness of your energy first, attuning to the energy of whoever your sitter is, whoever you're called to serve that day, whether it be through practice or professional practice, right? And then opening up your awareness to the spirit world. Now, this is multitasking to the next level, okay? It's a lot to kind of unpack. And you could do this all unconsciously, but what's the fun of that? I always find, I don't know, maybe it's the teacher in me, but I really like to unpack and understand things deeply. And so when I unpack the whole process to me around how am I aware what's mine? How am I aware if it's coming from them? How am I aware if it's from spirit? That's how I always know. And when I'm in a sitting, I've attuned my senses to a point where I know what's coming from my sitter, aka psychic, and I know what's coming from the spirit world, aka mediumship, and I know what's coming from me and my higher self, aka mentor teacher. Like I belong in that session as well. I'm not a spiritualist, so I'm not a medium who's like, just give me yeses and nos. I think people who have been through what they have been through need to be seen and heard, and that's one of the most basic human needs, is to be seen and heard. So my sessions may work a little bit differently than other people's sessions, but you will always have space to talk in your time with me. So these are kind of like putting it all together. I can go way deeper into details around that, but I want to send you with some different things that you can practice on your own to build out this awareness. And I've never done these. I do these all the time still because I still think I'm a student for life. I still have so much I want to accomplish in my mediumship, so much. And I think the day that I'm done, I'm going to move on and do something else because that's just me. You've been through my career list, right? I still think I'm going to work with animals at some point before I die. So who knows what will happen. But here's some ways that you can develop your awareness in IRL, in real life, right? Thank you, Gabby. You're so sweet. I will look at all these too. And Andrea, if you don't mind capturing the chat for me, I would love to read the comments after class. I know that will be a huge copy and paste, but if you don't mind, that would be wonderful. So here's some different techniques that you can do on your own. Practice makes progress, right? So What is it? What does it make sense when you're working with the field of awareness in a practice setting? It's really great to kind of practice, like, I'm sensing some tension here, or, I'm aware of like an animal coming in here, but really becoming aware of the spirit world and like what your sitter is experiencing can really only be validated when you put yourself into a practice setting. So I used to, this is kind of adjacent to it, but one of the things I used to do, because I was way too shit scared to put myself out there really early on. I developed on my bed, like I say. I would end every night just going into a meditation and just asking spirit, like, can you show me something that can be validated tomorrow? And so I would sense what I would become aware of, and I would write everything down. And then the next night I would check things off, and over time the accuracy got better and better and better, and I did that for like about a year. So there are ways that you can definitely practice on your own, but sometimes it is helpful to work with another light worker to get those things kind of validated, and it also is more powerful. It's way easier to do it with other people than on your own. The lineup exercise, this is something that comes with its own ethical consideration, but I do this everywhere I go. And this is one of my favorite in real life experiences. Like if I'm in a Starbucks lineup, at the grocery store lineup, this whole, where was I? At the Brackendale Fall Fair this weekend. I was the family victim that just stood in all the lineups for popcorn and train rides. And like, I just stood in the lineup the whole time while the whole family went off. And I don't mind. But it was kind of funny because what I typically do is I'll center myself in that space, and I'll just become aware of the energy before me, and I'll become aware of the energy behind me, aka the person in front of me's energy and the person behind me's energy. And the fun part for me is always just noticing the difference in energy. Now, the ethical consideration here is you do not have permission for me to go out and just like read people. I am not asking you to pick up information. I am not asking you to tune into them. All I'm asking for you in this exercise is to become aware of the energetic difference between your energy and the people's around you energy. You do not have really permission. I would just always walk through life assuming you don't. I am someone who received a drive-by reading early on in my reading at a event that I went to. It was really uncomfortable for me. I felt like I had a responsibility to make the reader feel better because they were very inaccurate, and that was a lot of space holding for me, and I was supposed to be the recipient. And so I decided to like never do that in my career because I felt so uncomfortable with it. So I just kind of give that disclaimer to you around that, okay? But I think it's a really valuable exercise. I also do this when I'm meditating and my dog's off in the corner. It's a similar exercise where I'll become aware of my energy and I'll move my awareness to like his energy, or her energy, I should say. I was thinking of my cat there for a second. So that's a good exercise too. Daily self-assessment, why not? I mean, what would life be like if you started every day knowing exactly where you were at energetically? I think that this would do a service for us in so many different ways, but it's definitely a great technique to take with you. Sitting in the power or meditation. I used to sit in the power for sure. I think it's a great way to develop. When we go into the initiation, I'll be doing a little bit of that for sure. But I also think that there are many different ways that we can develop our awareness that don't require necessarily that stillness, because that could really fight against people's like lifestyles and stuff like that. But make no mistake, there's a lot of benefits to it. Okay. Mindful presence. One of the ways that I really practice my awareness, because I am somebody who is busy in the mind, is I will choose to become present. And that's a way that I stop depleting my energy unnecessarily. And I'll bring my presence and my awareness back to the heart space. But I don't have to close my eyes and do those breaths anymore, because I know how to do it in an instant. And as you progress along, that will be true for you as well. So practicing presence and like mindfulness will also help with your awareness. I love plants and tree spirits. One of my favorite books, which I'll talk a little bit about next time, is The Afterlife of Billy Fingers. And, in that book, The Afterlife of Billy Fingers, which is about the journey of one man's life in the afterlife, true story, I believe it to be true. I've talked to the author of it. She has no hidden agenda. Trust me, I do believe this book. And one of my favorite quotes in this book from him is, from the vantage point and from the perspective of the heavens, nothing is brighter than trees. Like trees emanate more light than even spirits, like even you. And so I took that as gospel. Okay. So I literally will go out into the woods, and whether I'm walking through the woods or whether I choose to plant myself in a busyness of trees, I will center myself in that powerful AF place, and I will start to commune with the tree people and the tree spirits. And I'll start to become aware of the individual resonance of each tree. And that's a really powerful exercise as well. And I think probably one of the most potent ones, like one of the ones that you'll probably feel the biggest energetic shift for. Focusing on sound. For all of my clairaudience out there, I think clairaudience is like probably the most impressive ability, probably because it's the one I have the least. But one way that you can really practice this is like putting on music, whether it's classical music, whether it's your favorite song, and just picking one thing to focus on and being aware of that one instrument or that one voice throughout the duration of the song, right? And so that teaches you also the difference between focus and awareness, and you can sense the difference between them all. The other thing too is like being in a busy space, like just say you're at a restaurant and you catch yourself with like a minute. Like even just for 1 minute, just seeing if you can tune into the most far off sound. What is the furthest sound you can tune into and be aware of? Like how long can you hold that awareness for? Really, really good technique. Another one that will help you when we come to the class on communication is going to be naming your experiences out loud. It was a very humbling experience for me, realizing that the prep work I do in my head is not the same as when I practice it out loud. When you speak it out loud, the things that you've been thinking about and preparing for, it's like, have I thought about this? Like, do I know how to speak? And so even if you sit down for an exercise and you tune in with yourself, you might be like, backache, heart swelling, joy, breath, restoration, presence. Can't feel the breath go past my hips. It's not like analyzing things, it's like naming things. If you can get used to like naming your energetic experience, you will become so much of a stronger communicator for the spirit world. Because essentially, when we get to spirit communication, you're going to be trying to speak things from the intangible world. You can practice every day in real life by just naming your experiences that you're having. And then, of course, the meet your guide, using that third slide that we talked about with like centering yourself with your energy, calling a spirit forward. Maybe your trust and faith is so high that you're just like, there you are, love you. Maybe you're more skeptical like me and you want a little bit more like proof and validation. You want to start asking for a little bit of a sign. My toxic ass gets in the way. Absolutely. I know I feel like I was meant to be born Gen Z. I really do. I really do. Okay, so last slide, and then I'm going to let you guys go. I knew this class was going to be 90 minutes. Tomorrow will not be this long. Tomorrow's lesson in its entirety is about 30, 40 minutes. It's going to be a lot less than today, but I wanted to leave space for some openness. So these are all free for you, free to enjoy for the whole week, free to enjoy the whole month. There is no pressure, nothing attached to it. But if you did want a safe, supportive, non-judgmental space to practice, I will be doing the initiation. I have not run it for a year. Starting next month. This is going to be the 11th cohort. I cannot believe it. And so we do a lot of practice there. It's like group practice. You'll have 14 partner practice pairings. There's going to be different opportunities for a couple assessments for me to get like live feedback on that, but it is really a great place to practice there. I'll be talking about it a little bit more over the course of this week, but as part of the replay, or if Andrea wants to put it into the comments, you can go check out our page. We have a syllabus there with clear details. Again, part of my commitment to trauma-informed care is letting you know exactly what to expect. There's no grand promises because this is a journey and your unfoldment is not going to be just in 8 weeks. It's going to be over the course of your life, but I'm excited to work with whoever wants to come in and join for the 8 weeks this year to tune into your mediumship. And we talk about totally different things there. Okay, Andrea, thank you. Can we do this energy movement exercise with a non-living object? Of course, yes. I mean, crystals, everything has an energy field. If you subscribe to, was it Einstein? I don't remember what genius said this, but everything has an energy field to it, right? So absolutely, if you want to grab an object that doesn't have like a heartbeat to it, definitely play with it. It might even be a fun practice to try a crystal, try a plant, try a pet. Notice the difference between all of them as well. Another great way, which I didn't even touch on, and I've done whole classes around, it's in the development vault if you're in the collective, but it's like the language of color. Oh my goodness, like even looking at colors and the vibration of colors and being aware. I mean, why do you think I wear black? And that's my costume, because I don't get taxed by black. Black is a mute color. Black is kind of, it's like a deep sound. It's not busy for me. And so my awareness is that I am my most calm and I am my most centered when I wear black. Colors really do vibrate for me, and they have a life force energy to them. So another way to practice like awareness is like, awareness, what does this color make you feel? Where do you feel this color in your body? I mean, there's no ends. This is why I say I could teach a mediumship class every day of my life and not run out of things to talk about, because there's so many things that you can do. So yeah, is that why your whole wardrobe's black? That's why I wear black, because, and I got asked this in my daughter's kindergarten class, like, oh, there's probably no uniform for your work, because I followed a firefighter. Like, I'm not even making that up. My career day stint as a psychic medium followed a firefighter. And I was like, well, actually, I do have a costume as black because I'm my most centered. And still, when I wear black, it's just the vibration that it gives me. I absolutely love it. So yeah, this is a really fun exercise. So here's our class today, day 1. What was your biggest takeaway for those who are still here? We still have 90 people here. Thank you so much. Did you enjoy it? What was your biggest takeaway? Any comments for me? That would be great before I leave and go get out into nature. Let me see, just catch up on some comments. And then keep questions in mind for tomorrow too. We'll have about half an hour for questions tomorrow. Oh yeah, the other thing too, Gabby says here while I'm waiting for some comments to come in, is like, if you've already done the initiation, one thing I always offer people, okay, couple things. USD and CAD pricing, this is another trauma-informed business practice that I have, that like if it's $888 and you're in Canada, you pay $888 Canadian. If it's $888 and you're in the States, you pay $888 US. That's something that we do. It's called equal investment, so that my Canadian students, because I don't know if Americans know this, but everything's about 30% more in Canada. So we offer that. We also have alumni rates. So if you've already taken the initiation for this round, what we decided to do, that for alumni who are in the collective, you get it for, I think, Andrea, maybe you should say the prices. $250, $350, I think we landed. And if you're outside of the collective, you're not a member and you want to take the initiation again, because a lot of people come not for my teachings as much as the accountability for like the practice sessions and the ability to fine tune and refine whatever they're working on. We offer it, I think, for $350 outside of the collective, $250 from inside the collective, and that will stand true for every round. I'm moving away from angel numbers and moving to round numbers, just for my own personal sanity. And what else was I going to say around that? So let Andrea know, just reach out to Andrea with that. But that will be the case if you ever take the initiation. You'll be able to participate in any other round at a foundation's a heavily discounted rate. I've had some people take it like 3 or 4 times, literally. So yeah. And I'll be doing 6 live classes. I know we're going to do a class on ethics there. We're definitely going to be doing multiple spirit communicators, which we have to, but let's get through this week and I'll talk about the initiation. This week is still going to be amazing for you. You'll still be able to walk away with so much information that will carry you. And then we'll do it again next year. So yeah. Okay, so let me catch up on some questions just for my own fulfillment. I appreciate that. If you don't want to watch me read with my bad eyes, you're welcome to pop out. But I just wanted to read some of these comments. Diane, so good to see you. I'm glad to be back and looking forward to the initiation. I'm so glad, Diane, too. I hope you're doing well. Everything I needed to not feel overwhelmed and confused about which energy is mine and the others spirits. Yes, this will be life-changing. And that's how come I think personal development is so intrinsically tied to spiritual development, because chances are if we have a mystery in the unseen world, the answer is probably in the seen world. We could probably find it there. Good. Carrie says it was eye-opening. Thank you. Nicole just says, I love hearing you talk. Thank you. It's so calming and inspiring. I appreciate that. Between the cuss words and my digressions, I really do appreciate that. Hi, Kara. I feel brave for being here and starting to explore my gifts. Thank you for being here and putting yourself out there. We need more spirit workers, and my commitment to the spirit world is to continue to build capacity for them to work through more people. I think that my work has a larger ripple effect by training other people on how to do this and creating enough light and a platform for other people to do well doing this work, which is kind of my mission and my vision. Okay, perfect. Thank you, everyone. So you are a collective member, Darlene. So the price, if you are a returning collective member or a returning foundations member, an alumni, I should say, would be $250. And again, if, you know, I know that's a lot of money in the year of our Lord 2024. Like if for some reason finances are a barrier for you to participate, just reach out to Andrea. She knows what to do. There are different options for people for payment accommodations or payment flexibility. So just reach out to Andrea and she knows what to do. Naomi, so good to see you. Hopefully not January. I have learned my lesson to not launch things in January, and Andrea's going to hold me to that this year. Maybe March. Might launch. I might do a foundations week at the end of January, but January is a total gong show. It's great for business, but it is not great for a team of two. If you can believe this, like it's me and Andrea pretty much full time at Spirit School. It's me and her. My business masterminds think I have like a staff of 12 with how much I get done, but it's like me and Andrea. And then I have other people helping me, like Lindsay helps me with like marketing and my newsletter, and Danielle Baker helps me with some of like my writing and my copy editing. So I have like a lot of support and a lot of people helping me, but for the most part, it's like me and Andrea. So you know, we have family and stuff in December, so it's usually pretty taxing on us. I will be doing the declaration again in December, so that's the ethical considerations. I will be doing that in December, so that's the 4-week sprint on getting clear on your declarations around ethics and integrity in this unregulated work. I just joked, Amy. So the 12th house is the house of spirituality. It's the house that I think rules like our faith and trust. I got Pluto and Saturn there, I think. So, you know, I am not an astrologer, though. We have a lot of really talented astrologers here. I actually feel like there's some things in the development vault around this. Like, what are some of the astrological markings for you know, mediumship? What I will say though is mediumship essentially is a communication role, right? Like I'm like a PhD in communications. And when Dr. Michael Lennox looked at my chart for the first time, the first words he said to me is, please tell me you are communicating for a living. And that was all my 10th house work, right? So whatever's in 10th house, I don't know, but however I'm meant to be talking and communicating, I'm meant to be talking and communicating. Good, I'm glad, Lisa. Yes, if you can join, if you've never participated in the initiation in the past, 100%. Absolutely. In the initiation, we will always have people who have never had an experience before, up to people who are professional. This is how come I teach foundations, or I provide evergreen foundation so that we can just get into the work when we are there. But I promise you, the first time I ever did a reading, I thought I signed up for like an intuitive class and only 2 of us showed up, and my teacher said, just sit and close your eyes, tell me what you see, because she was clairvoyant. And I did my first reading and I didn't know what the heck was happening, and my whole life took off after that. Like, it was an initiation, which is how come I call my program the initiation, right? It's like, it's a full initiation. So you got to start somewhere. Everyone starts with the first session. And the beautiful part is, even if you get partnered with somebody who is advanced, my God, you are never going to sit with someone with more empathy in your life, because they have been there and they know exactly how you feel. And that's what I love about developing, like in the initiation or the collective. It's like you're literally, and there's no ego. People who, you know, there's a certain people who want to do mediumship to like look fancy and be all these things. They don't see me. They really don't. They go elsewhere. So a lot of the people who are like compassionate and human first focused and like empathetic and, you know, want to be of service, they really do find me. And that's who my spaces are usually filled with. I think we've only ever had one problem in the past. Round 9, it will haunt me forever. Cohort 9. But, other than that, we've had like nothing but amazing experiences. Okay, yes, so if you haven't taken it and you're a member of the collective, you get $111 off. So we give you a month's membership rate off the total price. That comes from Andrea. Andrea knows more about this than me. I have created a business for myself that I feel very lucky. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, Danielle. But I'm very lucky that I just get to show up and teach. That's where I'm at in my career. So Andrea, as far as like tech, sales, registration, onboarding, that's all Andrea. She's amazing. Everyone can use an Andrea. And she's my CEO, so she's my boss. Just go see Andrea. I always love my story because she's here of Diane Walters, or Waters, I should say, sorry. And she came into one of my advanced mediumship live classes. So like when I brought Dominic Bogan from Scotland to come teach with me here at HQ, and it was for advanced mediums, like established professional mediums. And he talks and we're talking, and then she comes up to me right away and she was like, I'm in the wrong place. I have never done this. And I said, please don't worry. We got you. And she did phenomenal. And she did the initiation after that. She was in the collective for a year. Looks like she's going to be doing it again. So the only thing I can tell you, which is going to be the single best piece of advice I could ever give you, is the fuck it method, which is essentially when it comes down to it and you're scared of doing something or you have resistance and you really want to do something, fuck it. Right before I came on this call, you know how nervous I was? I messaged Andrea. I'm like, my teeth are chattering. I have 132 people registered. I have never talked in front of that many people. Like, it's nerve-wracking. And before I hit live, fuck it, let's go. Right? And you just do it. So it's just, you just do it and you just have your experience, and it's an experience that you'll probably love either way. Okay, no worries, friends. I am going to let you go so I can go get my kids and go spend a little bit of time by the water to decompress myself. Go do something for yourself to ground. I hope that you can take away some teachings from this today. I hope that the replay will serve to be of value for you all. I will see you tomorrow when we talk about the spirit world. And then if you have questions, we will be fielding some questions tomorrow as well. Just reach out to Andrea. You can hit her name in Mighty because we're in the Mighty platform, and you can send her a private message, or you can email assistant@squamishmedium.com. And today is not the only day. Again, one of my other trauma-informed business practices is I don't do impulse sales and I don't do urgent sales. You have a whole month to decide. Even after this is done, I don't even do like early bird shit because I don't want people to feel like they have to purchase off dopamine. I want you to think about this, be with it, see if I'm a great teacher for you, and you have a whole month to decide if you want to sign up. So please don't feel any scarcity or pressure or rush from any of us. We want this to be a really conscious and decision that feels really good for you. And yeah, okay, we will see you guys tomorrow. Enjoy your day.